Now, when you're setting up a still life, and once you've practiced your basic shapes, you're going to try to put them together. Now you're working into your proportions, the size of the object, and the relationships, how each object in space relates to the other. I'm going to remove this cylinder just to simplify, because simplification helps when you're starting out. So I have 3 objects, and I want to put these into a small composition. As I can see, one of the first things I want to do is estimate the height and the width of this particular still life. So I'm looking, and if you do this type of thing, you want to hold your arms stiff, because measure from the top of the cone, which is the top object in my still life, to the base of the sphere. Now your point of view is going to be different from my point of view. You're looking at it from this direction and I'm looking at it from this direction. So do practice this at home. But if you hold this stiff and then you bend your elbow, you see that that changes the size of what you're measuring, and you don't want to do that. So be consistent this way. I am going to measure from the base of that sphere to the top of the cone, and then I'm going to turn it. And if this is my full unit of length from top to bottom, I can see that from side to side is about 2/3 that. So I'm going to lay out really quickly. Here's my top, here's my bottom, just little tick measurements here. And this is going to be, now I have to do, I want about 2/3 of that. So I want about that height for the width. So there's my full height, and then I took and estimated about 2/3 of it, 1/2, and put it there. This gives your boundaries of your drawing, and it helps you start out. Also kind of where the objects are within that still life. Okay. I can see that for me, this side of the cube is just about halfway. So this is the halfway point of my still life. I'm going to do that. And then for the height-wise, I can see that my sphere is just a little over 1/3. That's the top of the sphere, and that's going to be the bottom of the sphere. Now, how to start working this? I have these tick marks to remind me where I'm going. And remember to relax. This one's not going to be perfect. It's tricky to in a demonstration, but do practice over and over. You will get this. The more you practice it, the better it is. It may be simple to do a still life, but it's very important. We learn so much from it. So within this, and I can see that here's my center line, so that's the edge of that cube. And then I see that on my sphere, it touches about 1/3 of the way in. So my sphere is going to be sitting more over in this direction. I very lightly start circles, and as I feel more comfortable, I can make that line a little bit stronger. This is a good way to do circles. You can draw in the air first. You see a lot of artists doing that, and you go like, what are they doing? Why are they drawing in the air? It's because they're planning out and they're getting their muscles working in the area that they need to be working in. So that's my sphere. Now this becomes my unit of measure for the rest of the still life. So I can see that in comparison, the bottom of the sphere to the top of the sphere is basically the same distance from the lower corner of my cube to the upper corner of my cube. So for that cube, the first thing I'm going to do is figure out where it touches on my sphere. On the sphere, I can see it touches right about there. There's another tick mark. And then the back corner of it here, that back edge is touching about 1/3 of the way in here. And that, look, that coincides with that original center mark that I was looking at. So, surprisingly, this is going to come out. This point here on the cube itself, and I'm always comparing one object to another and to itself. Where did I start? This is the center of that lower side down in here, that lower edge, which you can't see from where you are. It looks a little different, but that's okay. So I can see it comes down, and I'm looking at the angle of that. It's about 45 degrees. So if I had this straight line, I would come down at about a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to draw through because I'm not sure exactly where the other is. Again, this is about halfway in the side of that cube. So if I go from there to there, that's going to be, the tick mark is going to be this edge of the cube right here. So that is going to go right in there. Why am I turning like this? It's because naturally this is our arm on this this fulcrum kind of goes back and forth this way. It's very easy. But to draw a line this way is much more difficult. Our body's just not made for that. So in order to get a nice even line, this way is the most natural way to do it. I'm turning my body to allow that to go in. And while I'm down here, I am going to draw that other edge of the sphere, that cube. And see how I'm just kind of drawing through there, so knowing that that's what's going to be in the area. It's a little awkward right now, but I'm thinking ahead. Now this corner, from having this edge line right here, if I can make it straight, now I look at this and I estimate the angle that this edge back here is going off. And it's about that degree, about like that. So there I go. That's coming off in this direction. Now I can get rid of these lines because that shows me where that edge is. It needs a little adjustment. I can see it needs a little bit more of an angle. So I'm bringing that in. Now, in reality, these lines, any line that is parallel in reality, you want to keep parallel here. So if I'm looking at this baseline here and this baseline, it is going to be parallel to this one and this one and this one. Those red lines are all parallel to each other. So when I'm doing a quick still life, I want them at least parallel. Now, as we get into perspective, you see they will slightly converge, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So do keep these parallel, parallel, parallel. Now, you can't see that back corner. You can't see that back corner there, but you need to imagine that it's there, and it is. Next thing I'm going to do is figure out the height of the cube in comparison with the sphere. It's like 1 1/4 size of the sphere. So there's 1 and then another quarter size of the sphere. So this should be the height. This point right here, this tick mark, is this tick mark right here. Again, I'm estimating, but I'm always double checking with everything else. Is it parallel to this line? Yes. We remember it's parallel, so parallel here. The same with the line that goes back this way. This line is parallel to this line. So think that through. And the same with the one back here. From this corner, you want it parallel there. So now we have basically put our cube, our elongated cube, into the space. I'm double checking it right now. I see it's not quite wide enough on this side, so I am going to expand this a little bit more. This is the time to be making your adjustments while it is very light and easy. Light marks on your paper, and it's easy to make those adjustments. All right. Define it, feeling pretty good. Take a step back, examine it, make sure it's going well with what you're looking at. Yes. Now for the cone. I'm going to figure out where the cone, from my point of view, touches on the back side of that cube, and where does it touch here on the sphere that's in front of it. Right about there. I'm going to imagine the central axis going straight down through that cone. And where would that be? That would be right about here. If I could see that, it would be right about in that area. Good. Now at the base, and I have to imagine, I can't see it from here, but remember that base is a circle, so it's at an angle. It's not, if you were looking straight down, it would be a circle, but we're looking at slight like a slight angle, so it's going to be more of an ellipse there. So you're going to think that. You can't see it, but I want to imagine it. I know that one base is here, there's the center, the other one is over here, if I had X-ray vision, because that's the center. So down in behind, that's going down a little bit further in behind, so I'd imagine it's down in here somewhere. X-ray vision, we are super artists. And then up here, this is the top. Remember, we did that tick mark initially. That's as high as it wants to go. We want to double check. Yes, it's a little bit higher. It's not double and it's not half, so it's about that much. We're double checking those. This also needs to be equally on both sides. This little ellipse needs to be equally on both sides of that central line. And now you can, just using, you don't have to use a straight edge, but you can if you want. I can see my measurements are off already. See, that tick mark was over there. I went over a little too far. This needs to go out a little further, which was right there. Yes, that works a little better. I'm going to bring that down through there. And this one is going to be down. Whoop. So my fingers are getting in the way. Now you don't have to use a straight edge, but sometimes it helps. People come to me and say, like, I can't even draw a straight line. And it's like, neither can I. But that's the beauty of it. And you want your lines to reflect your personality. All right, I've made a little adjustment here. This looks pretty good. So I double checked with the objects I'm looking at here. This sphere comes out a little bit more. Now I'm just going to define this a little stronger for you. And you can see how the proportions and the relationships here have related well to each other. So the objects work together in space, and they work together as the beginning of a drawing. See those tick marks? Nice thing about your Vine charcoal is how quickly it erases. Taking a step back, I want to define that a little bit more. And this is just taking lines, comparing the proportions of the objects and the relationships of them within space, and creating this illusion of the three-dimensional aspect here on a two-dimensional piece of paper. Now, practice this at home. Move your objects around, try different things, experiment with them. And later on, we'll see how we can combine these to create other objects. So I hope this was helpful. Please share and like if you can, subscribe. I am trying to build this up. I know these are beginning videos, but I want to get that foundation set before we move on to more advanced aspects, okay? So I hope you have a great day. And remember to allow that creative spirit to flow. Thanks.